Hey, what's up? Hello, everyone. Welcome into Fantasy Filmball, the show where we turn movies into sports and sports into something we don't talk about here. My name's Matt.
My name is Dylan. We're back here again with another post-Cannes predictions. We've done Best Picture, we've done the acting categories, we've even done the technical and craft work. Now let's dive into the rest of the above the line categories.
And before we get into today's video and predictions, we got to talk a little bit about the game of Fantasy Filmball, which we play every year on this channel starting in mid-August. And if you want to play the game too, you can join in our Discord down below. Now, if you want to learn more about the game or how to play it, we have plenty of videos up on this channel explaining all of that. But if you want to join in, because assuming you're watching our channel, you probably love predicting the Oscars, gamifying the Oscars as much as we do. So if you like that, then this is the game for you.
With all that being said, let's dive into our predictions. And our first category today is Best Director, and we haven't really talked about any of these categories that we're going over here since before the Cannes Film Festival, so there has been a lot of movement on things, at least for my list. I still do have Yorgos Lanthimos as my number one with Begonia, and that kind of correlates to what we talked about in our Best Picture episode as well, being this is the film I think is going to win, and it's off the back of Yorgos's other previously acclaimed work, and it's like the pinnacle of what we've seen from the past.
This is so interesting. So you, after the trailer, still have it winning Best Picture, still have it winning Best Actor, Director, Screenplay, post-trailer?
I'm not as confident as I was before, but I'm still going to rock with it until we get first reactions. Hopefully that is going to be at the Venice Film Festival, because if it does repeat for another Golden Lion for Yorgos, I think that's a great starting path. Now, if it comes out at Venice and people are like, hey, this is another great Yorgos movie, but it's not his best, or it's not this super relevant social commentary, or Jesse Plemons isn't the best performance of the year sort of thing, I'll probably cool off on it a little bit there, but I'm not someone who really likes to jump off movies until we hear more about the movies themselves.
True, I do remember Avatar: The Way of Water. So you are one stubborn man, and I like that about you. I don't know. For me, I would love to see it. I find it really, really, really hard to believe that Begonia is going to be that much of a step up from Poor Things, from The Favorite. And I know it's not competing against those movies, but we say on the channel all the time, if it's not head and shoulders the best thing that this filmmaker has done, if they've been in the Oscar conversation before this, it's very difficult to end up winning. I mean, Christopher Nolan basically had to pull off a miracle, essentially, to be seen as, like, yeah, this is unanimously seen as the best thing he's made in his career. Outside of that, like, that is the one time since 2007 that a filmmaker has won Best Picture after having been nominated in the past. Like, it is not easy to do that. And to me, at least from the trailer that I've seen, from the hints of where he's going with the vibe of this film, yes, a picture nomination is still very much in the cards for this one, but a win, that's a little bit harder for me to buy, because it looks so much like a return to The Lobster, to Dogtooth, to The Killing of a Sacred Deer, these films that were more alienating and strange from Yorgos, almost hostile to the audience. It's not Poor Things. It's not The Favorite. It's not going to be welcoming the audience in with open arms. So to me, I've cooled down a little bit on Begonia because of that. I don't even think that I have it nominated for Best Director at this point.
You don't. In fact, of our Best Director lineups, we only have 2 out of 5 overlapping. The first of those is Joachim Trier for Sentimental Value, a movie I haven't seen, but I have raised up the ranks post-reception at the Cannes Film Festival, but a movie you have seen, and it has stuck pretty much in the same spot from where you had it before festival and now.
Oh, basically, yeah. I mean, I actually, looking back at my predictions before Cannes, I didn't have it over the moon for anything. Like, I didn't have it winning anything except international feature. And now I'm like, that's crazy. That's so crazy. It's got to win something. And director, I'm a bit more shaky on than some of the other categories. Like, even if it wins picture, it could still lose director. The same way that last year I felt like if Anora wins picture, it needs screenplay, but it can lose director. of course, ultimately, Sean Baker ended up winning director and screenplay and editing, and the movie just won everything else it possibly could have. And I do see the same avenue coming forward for sentimental value. And I'm not trying to say, like, oh, it's going to be the exact same thing as last time. And because last year the Big Can movie did this year it's going to be. That's not my argument for this at all. I'm not seeing this as a Nora 2. I'm seeing this very much as the same vein that we've seen in previous years. I think of Everything Ever All at Once. I think of Coda. I think of even Nomadland, Parasite. And yes, of course, Anora does fit into this, but it's a movie that captures the heart as much as it captures the mind. And I think that is so fundamental to a Best Picture winner, is something that moves you. And for Best Director, again, like I've been saying for the past little bit, we are back in a new era of the sweep. If something can win those top prizes, it's going to win those top prizes. So for me, Joachim Trier is pretty far out front, although this is one category I could eventually see weakening. But if he doesn't win, I mean, there's been so much buzz for Ryan Coogler and Sinners. This is the blockbuster filmmaker. We often see blockbuster filmmakers snubbed from this category, thinking back to multiple times with Denis Villeneuve. Not even just Denis Villeneuve, but John Chu won the Critics' Choice for Best Director, wasn't nominated here. And I mean, Joseph Kosinski, Top Gun Maverick, DGA nomination, no Oscar nomination. Greta Gerwig, Barbie. We see this pattern. Blockbuster filmmakers get snubbed from Best Director unless they're win competitive, which Ryan Coogler is. Now, do I think he will win? I don't, because I think if he were to win Best Director, Best Picture would likely come along with that. And personally, I don't see that happening for Sinners. I do see it being a top 2, top 3 movie, though, and that is enough for me to put Ryan Coogler in my Best Director lineup.
Yeah, someone else I really want to mention here is Guillermo del Toro for Frankenstein. And sure, Guillermo could just be like Denis Villeneuve for Dune Part 1. So many technical nominations and technical wins, but misses out on this above the line marquee nomination for The Man Behind the Camera. But this director lineup typically loves people whose singular vision and their creative hand behind the lens crafts the movies from top to bottom. Pair that with the backing of Netflix and Guillermo's name title as a whole. Yes, he missed out for Nightmare Alley, but he is a previous winner, as well as he basically got the Pinocchio movie to clean sweep the animated season. The Academy does like this guy, and I can see that translate into a Best Director nomination, especially with the point that both Matt and myself have Frankenstein at large. We have a top 6, top 5, and think that should be good enough for a nomination here, especially at this point inside the race.
I would love to see that happen. I feel like there's so many repeat contenders this year that I am a little bit less hot on some of those. I'm less hot on Lanthimos. I'm less hot on Del Toro. I mean, Baumbach didn't get nominated for Marriage Story. I'm still less hot on Baumbach as a directing nominee. I'm really looking towards, if they are going to have those repeat contenders, I think the one I'm really big on is Paul Thomas Anderson. Because even with Licorice Pizza, which ended up with only 3 nominations, they still nominated him in director and in screenplay. And even though I don't think One Battle After Another is going to be massive in Best Picture, I still have it on the lower half of my Best Picture lineup. I feel like no matter what, he has the respect of the director's branch. He has the respect of the writer's branch. And so those are 2 nominations that I'm more confident in than anything else. It's the same way that, like, not to say he's on exactly the same level, but even if Martin Scorsese releases a movie that's not top 5 for Best Picture, he's getting in Best Director. That's the same way I kind of feel about Paul Thomas Anderson. He bridges the gap between the sort of like artsy cred and the old heads of the Academy who are going to vote for their favorite old head director. So Paul Thomas Anderson, I feel really, really good about. But regardless, I think you kind of have to have one of those filmmakers in here who's been active since at least the 90s. And if not Paul Thomas Anderson, yeah, Del Toro, very good bet there.
I agree with a lot of the points that you just brought up there about Paul Thomas Anderson. I currently do have one battle after another outside my Best Picture lineup, so that is why he is right outside my Best Director lineup. But if the film is a Best Picture contender, I fully agree. This film could be number 10, number 9 in Best Picture, and PTA would still find his way to be inside the Best Director race. But to continue this Best Director talk, yes, the Directors Branch loves their creative hands that have been here before. They love their international skewing directors, but they also love fresh voices. And Josh Safdie from Mario Supreme could exactly be that. Sure, Mario Supreme is a movie I am still super skeptical of because we have heard zero buzz about it going to Venice. We would hope if it's not going to Venice, that means Telluride or TIFF. But I mean, Safdie, from his collaborations with his brother, has had this singular, unique vision behind the lens, and no movies are like a Safdie movie. They're so original, they're so unique, and I feel like that's going to carry over to both their solo works with both The Smashing Machine and with Marty Supreme. And if this movie is as grand and spectacular as people have been hypothesizing all year long, this nomination could come along with the bunch. And on the flip side, though, in this Best Director race, like I said before, we have the returning nominees, we have the international skewing nominees, we have the fresh faces, but also they sometimes start to throw bones after you've had multiple times in the vicinity of the Oscars in the Best Director category, but you haven't really cracked your foot in there yet. And that's really how I feel of Ryan Coogler this year with Sinners. Because Black Panther, Best Picture nominee, multi-Oscar award winner. Creed, while it didn't win any awards, it still had the runner-up for supporting actor. And Black Panther Wakanda Forever, it won multiple techs, and it was top 2, top 3 in the Best Supporting Actress race. And now we're back here with this massive, biggest Oscar contender to this year so far in terms of released films. My biggest question with Sinners goes, where is the appeal going to be at the end of the year? We know how much people adore and love this movie at this exact moment, but will this stay from April until the following February, or will it cool off a little bit? Because the international box office numbers are not amazing. They don't scream top to bottom contender in the way that a lot of previous blockbusters have. Because, like, yes, Barbie and Top Gun Maverick, they missed on Best Director nominations, but they still had the international box office to support their screenplay nominations and their acting stuff, at least Barbie in its case. And Sinners is one I don't want to doubt. I don't like that I'm continually being lower on this movie than that is. But at the same time, there are massive red flags here. But I do want to put Ryan Coogler here because he has the Academy cachet in the past. He has the movie so far. He's been championing the unique vision of his cinema. And also going back to my initial review of Sinners, the path for this film and the path for Coogler himself is very remnant of Corley Farjan, The Substance, a film that has all the cards stacked against it, but it's so dynamic in its vision. It's such a unique film that we haven't seen before, and it's the only film of its kind inside of this season of awards race can help propel it to keep overachieving all year long. What I really need to see from Coogler to believe in the Best Director nomination is not just one precursor, not just a precursor win. I need him to get in everywhere. DGA, CCA, Golden Globes, BAFTA. And if that happens, yeah, Coogler's in here. And maybe even Coogler can surprise for the win for Sinners. But, I mean, that we'll have to see.
On the Safdie perspective, I wish that we had something here to talk about. I wish we had a trailer. I wish we had something to tell us this is actually a real contender, that this is actually a real movie at this point. Because the further we get into the year with no news about Marty Supreme, the more I start to lean that at best, this is like a complete unknown, Nightmare Alley, those late year contenders that end up coming out in theaters with no festival presence that are in picture, but not really big in picture, right? They don't have the runway to get the steam to pick up any wins whatsoever. Or otherwise, it could be Babylon, which is another film that we kind of expected to fit that mold, be in Best Picture, and it just kind of flopped. And so if that happens, we have to start thinking, what is A24 doing? What's A24 doing? We need to start looking for every other possibility. And right now, The Smashing Machine looks like the only other thing that A24 really has up their sleeve. And maybe the Smashing Machine is bigger than we thought it was. Even if it is in Best Picture, I don't know if I would predict it for Best Director, though. Now, I want to bring up John M. Chu. We talked about that. We talked about that blockbuster director missing, but I do think there's an avenue here for him to get in. I mean, he won the Critics' Choice last year. Now, of course, Critics' Choice has a zero overlap with the Academy, so it doesn't matter. And regardless, they're always going to be a little highbrow, a little elitist in the director's branch, which is always going to hurt a film like Wicked for Good. But what if the film is too big? If it is a top three contender, the way that you and I kind of both think it is at this point. If it is that big juggernaut that's getting all of these nominations, and if visually it is a massive step up from the first one, as the trailers seem to indicate, is he really that far out of reach from a Best Director nomination?
I think the biggest thing with John M. Chu and Wicked for Good as a whole is just where is this movie in the Best Picture race? Because like you just said, if this is win competitive, if it's number one, number two, I think that John M. Chu does break the mold and he can find his way inside this Best Director lineup. But I do go back to Dune Part 1 of Denis Villeneuve. While yes, this movie was never winning Best Picture, it was safe to say it was top 5 easily at every precursor. The precursors that only had 5 films, it found its way in. It won so many technical awards. It got nominated for Screenplay, yada yada, but still, Denis still missed out on the Best Director nomination. So I would need to see Wicked for Good win at least one of the major precursors for Best Picture for me to really buy John M. Chu this time around. And I think that also extends out to our international feature contenders because we have so many international directors kind of in this top 15, top 20 at the moment, but obviously at the end of the day, we can't have all of them in here. Trier is taking a slot, but is he the sole representation this year, or does he count as somewhere else that really allows someone else to come in here? And I know a lot of people out there would say it's Jafar Bonati for It Was Just an Accident, but I know both you and I aren't really huge believers of that movie at this moment. But I feel like we're not as big believers for different reasons because you have another film from Neon that is an international feature in the Best Picture race and the Best Director race. Why that's my big reason against It Was Just an Accident, saying, hey, Neon already has their international Best Picture feature contender. They aren't really going to worry about a second one.
See, I actually at first agreed with you, but the more they buy, the more I am coming around to the idea that Neon somehow has the money. And for a while, we thought 2 A24 movies in Best Picture was impossible. But Neon has clearly more money than A24 this year, it seems, somehow. Or maybe their priorities are just in different places. But Neon is spending, spending, spending. And it's clear that if they are spending this much on movies, they have a plan of what to do with them. At least some of them. I think that they can at least manage 2. I don't believe in It Was Just an Accident because I've seen it. And it is not an Oscar movie. In fact, without having won the Palme d'Or, I don't think that this would be in anyone's top 100 for Best Picture. Even if it had just, let's say you swap Sentimental Value and It Was Just an Accident. You give Sentimental Value the first prize and It Was Just an Accident the second prize. No one's talking about It Was Just an Accident. In fact, at that point, people are saying The Secret Agent is Neon's number 2. And so to me, It Was Just an Accident is just so non-Oscars coded, and if it gets in, I will forever treat the Palme d'Or as though it is the People's Choice Award. And from now on, everything that wins the Palme gets into Best Picture. If this one does, and that's not because it's weird or anything, it's not because it's overly artsy, it's because it's such a simple film. I mean, it's in the title, A Simple Accident in French. But it's a really simple, it's just a few people in a car, and they drive from one place and they drive to another. It's so small. I just can't see that. And I am, granted, biased against this movie. I was quite underwhelmed by It Was Just an Accident. But to me, there's just so many things that would need to happen. It would need a Drive My Car level critic run to get that, and I just don't see that happening. But what I do see happening is Park Chan-wook for No Other Choice, which I think will be going to Venice, likely to win a major prize at Venice, hopefully the Golden Lion, but as long as it wins either Best Director or the runner-up prize to the Golden Lion, then I'm still happy. I'm still good for this movie. If it wins one of those big prizes at Venice, then that to me is a signal that maybe they can handle this. Maybe they can push it. It is a very relevant storyline, being about joblessness, being about the economy, being about the desperation of the working class in a modern capitalist system, and that pushed to its logical extreme, which is violence. We've seen the Academy time and time again respond to this type of class commentary movie. And before people say, oh, but they had a chance to nominate him before with Decision to Leave, and they didn't even get into Best International Feature, whatever. I don't care about that. Decision to Leave was like a murder mystery detective movie. This is class commentary turned murder. Like, it's very much in the same realm as Triangle of Sadness or Parasite. This feels like his moment. And I do think that the way that the director's branch is going, being the most highbrow, being the most artsy branch, we're going to keep seeing multiple international filmmakers in here. And while, yes, last year we only had Jacques Audiard, we also had Corley Farja. We also had The Brutalist. We had some highbrow stuff in there. And no, Walter Salles didn't make it in, but I'd argue that I'm Still Here was like a very last minute addition to Best Picture anyways. So I think we're going to get multiple international people in here every year, those directors who have a career built in other countries. So to me, Park Chan-wook is far and away. I can see the argument for Jafar Panahi. He just needs a trifecta sweep to do it. And if he does that, then I'll shut the hell up.
Well, you just mentioned right there the fact that the Best Director race has, at least for the last few years now, been very consistent with very international appeal inside of its contenders. And one thing that we have seen be a common occurrence over the past few years as well is that a woman has found her way inside the race, if not one, multiple in the top 10 or top 5 at the end of the day. And this year, very similar to last year at this time, we were very much struggling to figure out who would be that representation. It ended up being Corley Farja at the end of the day. And at least at this moment, with Hedda seeming to be on its way out of the race, we're really left with Catherine Bigelow for House of Dynamite and Chloe Zhao for Hamnet and Lynn Ramsey for Die My Love and Hikari for Rent a Family. Yes, so it's really, if you want to play the numbers game, it might be smart to throw one of them in. It's just the same thing we ran into last year, is what film seems the best on paper, and no one was considering the substance at that moment, but obviously it checked off all the boxes of what a Best Director nominee tends to kind of feel like in terms of the sense of direction and control over the film. And I mean, Chloe Zhao is a previous nominee, a previous winner. Hamnet, if it does become Focus Features #1 and it's not Begonia, as you mentioned before, there is some skepticism with Begonia from top to bottom of being like, hey, been there, done that with Yorgos. Focus shifts their campaign a little bit. I could see Chloe Zhao come back not for another win, but for another nomination inside the category of Hamnet, because it does seem, without any visuals or video or photos or whatsoever at this moment, that it's going to be the mold of what a director nominee feels like. It's just, is the execution really going to be there?
Yeah, I want to see some stuff from Hamnet as well. Like, I really want to see what her approach is to this one. But at the moment, I do think Chloe Zhao is the likeliest woman. But that said, we can't count out Searchlight, man. We really can't. It's not guaranteed that it's Bradley Cooper. We still don't even have confirmation that Is This Thing On is actually coming this year. We've heard early skepticism around it, but Venice hasn't announced their lineup. And to be honest, if it's at Venice and it's not in competition, I've heard it rumored it might be an out of competition slot. If it's not in competition, I would drop it down quite a lot. Oh, hey, Alfie. That is the cutest thing. We have to keep that in the video. That's really cute. That's the thumbnail, right?
There it is. He's just jumping up. He just wants to say hi.
We've heard some really positive press. We've heard that Rental Family is aiming for those fall fests. If Rental Family does Telluride, TIFF, I'm watching out for it. I'm watching out for it big time. I might start to move it back up where I've sort of been edging it away from those nominations. But overall, I don't think it's a hard fast rule that we need to have a woman in there the same way that I think it is currently a hard fast rule that we need to have international representation. I think having a woman in Best Director is more coincidence than anything, while having an international director in is very much a representation of an ever shifting awards body.
Well, that's to move us over to Best Casting, and sadly, the movie Cats didn't come out this year, or else my cat would have to be in there somewhere. But for casting right now, from one musical to the other, Wicked for Good, we're both riding this wave at number one because you can say, hey, it's a sequel. They're not going to go other way. All these people already had their moment to shine in the previous film, but the category didn't exist last year. For a lot of these casting choices, this is the movie that you're casting those characters for. We're seeing the culmination of a lot of those performances. And I feel like until further notice, this is something that I feel very good in and I'm going to keep at my number one. But I can see the case if someone wants to go out there and say, hey, Sinners is my pick in this category.
100%. I will, in any year that's not this year, I will 100% be on the train of no sequel will get nominated for casting. I will never again say that a sequel will get nominated. But this is a different year. This is a different year because this is the first time this category has existed. And so with this award, this is the first chance they've had to award any of these films. Will they go for a sequel? Yeah, because they didn't get a chance to award it the first time around. If this category existed last year, Wicked would have gotten the nomination, possibly the win. We don't know for sure. Possibly the win. And they wouldn't have nominated it again this year. But there was no casting category last year. This is the first year, and Wicked for Good, they have the opportunity to award it for both films, which makes it stronger. It makes it so much stronger. And so I don't want to see the argument that like, oh, it's a sequel. They already cast them. It doesn't matter. It does. If this category existed before, it would matter, but it didn't, so it doesn't. That said, Sinners is a very, very strong runner-up in the category because, goddamn, that is a big cast. And there's a lot of weight put on one particular person being Miles Caton. Miles Caton being an unknown 17-year-old kid. He's like 20, whatever. But having to cast someone who is that young, who has never acted, who also has to sing that well and play the guitar that well, that is a phenomenal achievement. And if we're looking off of what the BAFTAs do in casting, here's what they award. They award child performances. They award things that are, they award child performances, big ensembles, and things that are up for the major awards. And this is kind of all three. So Sinners is big, 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 could win if our hypothesis about Wicked is wrong, which it could be.
I mean, we talked about sequels a little bit there. I think there will be an exception to the rule of sequels is when you are introducing a completely new cast as well. And that's why I do have Wake Up Dead Man in my best casting lineup for this moment. Because one thing I really want to see with this category, and this year will be the test because it's the first year of the category, is this going to be more like BAFTA where they're rewarding more specific one performance sort of things? Or will it be more like other casting things that a lot of critics groups do that's more for the ensemble at large? And Wake Up Dead Man, yes, you are bringing back Daniel Craig from the previous two, but the rest of the cast is completely new. It's usually, at least the previous two Knives Out movies have been people playing against type or playing very different roles and characters than what you typically see them do. And I think that could result in this film. We always say like, oh, sequels usually go down in nominations, but the odd thing for the Knives Out movies is they've all only gotten screenplay without the chance for casting. Maybe this one can go up and it's screenplay and casting.
See, I would agree with you, but I think that the Knives Out movies, I can't really see ever going beyond just screenplay. And thinking back to previous years, I think we also have to use the SAG Ensemble category as a benchmark here. Think 2022. Glass Onion literally won Best Ensemble at the Critics' Choice Awards. No nomination for the SAG. And so to me, I'm not feeling like they have to do this. I'm not feeling like they have to go for a big ensemble here. It feels like the style of casting that they have here, which is basically just, oh, it's a who's who of all of these big actors that we know. Like, oh, there's Josh O'Connor. Oh, there's Kaylee Spaney. Oh, there's Glenn Close. And it's all centered around Daniel Craig. That doesn't feel like the type of casting that they're going to award. And so to me, I still think Wake Up Dead Man maxes out at one nomination being screenplay. I don't see it for casting. I still got it in my top 10 because, again, I could be wrong. We don't know how the Oscars are going to be different from the BAFTAs, how they're going to be different from SAG Ensemble, how they're going to be different from Critics' Choice Ensemble. We don't know any of that. But at the moment, I just feel like diminishing returns is one thing. I don't think that this is going to be as strong as Glass Onion or Knives Out were. And I also don't see why we would have to add a nomination for this one. So to me, I'm not riding on that wave personally. But I am really riding on the wave of Marty Supreme, which is what we've heard. There's like 200 named characters in this movie, and that could be messy, but it also leads to there's a lot of people to cast, and there's a lot of celebrities in this that are not known for acting who seemingly have big roles. I mean, Tyler the Creator apparently has a big standout role in this film. You also have to cast Timothée Chalamet and someone to play his mother, being Fran Drescher. You also have Gwyneth Paltrow, and then you've got, like I mentioned, the celebrity cameos. You've got Mr. Wonderful coming in. That's crazy having Kevin O'Leary in the movie, as well as just I don't even have the list up right now, but it's what an insanely huge cast of people that you would never expect to be in a movie like this. So I really like the look of that because it seems it's so strange. It's so strange. And if Marty Supreme is a big Best Picture movie, then it would make sense for me in that way. I actually want to shout out one more, which I currently have as the Discovery one in my lineup, alongside Sinners, which is a Discovery Award for Miles Caton. I think Preparation for the Next Life, if it is what I expect it to be in Best Picture, if it is what I expect it to be in Best Actress, Supporting Actor, this could be a really great example of something that is awarding the you found someone who's incredible. Because I really think that the lead actress in Preparation for the Next Life, Sabaya Betiar, is going to blow people's socks off, as well as having Fred Heschinger play the other lead of the film, as well as so many other roles having a cast within the Uyghur and Chinese community in New York City, as well as casting for flashbacks, both in China and in Iraq during Operation Desert Storm. It's a big cast. There's a lot of different roles to fill, and it's very specific casting as well. So that feels like a good narrative there. Of course, if Preparation for the Next Life is nothing, as you know, it very well could be. Be, I could just be propping up something that is an indie that comes and goes. But if it is something, this feels like a category it could really excel in.
Well, this best casting category is going to be the most interesting race this year for me, is because what is this award really going to look like? Because as we talked about here so far, we have the larger ensemble cast, we have casting unknowns in roles, but I also feel like this category is going to be shouting out casting one specific performance, and typically you see those highlighted through biopic performances, and this year there's two major ones in the race. I currently have Springsteen on the outside looking in. That's just because of the movie at large. I think will be that way in most Oscar categories, but easily if Deliver Me From Nowhere is this major Oscar juggernaut the way like Bohemian Rhapsody or Complete Unknown were, then yeah, this one would be a sure nomination and maybe even competing for the win. But the one I do have in my lineup right now is another A24 movie, being The Smashing Machine, behind putting Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in an Oscar vehicle, giving him a dramatic performance in the way that we haven't seen him do in, you can either say, a long time or ever in his career. And if he knocks out of the park, I think even if this film is outside of Best Picture, this is a nomination you can add to the tally of The Rock, makeup, casting, and then it can extend out to potentially screenplay and Emily Blunt. And at that point, how far away can you be from Best Picture?
I definitely agree with that. And I think the hard, fast rule I'm going to have for casting is if your film is winning an acting prize, you are in best casting. And right now, my casting category is represented with my 4 acting wins, with Ariana Grande, Timothy Chalamet, Stellan Skarsgård, and Renata Reinsve. Now, if I were to move Timothy Chalamet out of my winning spot and put Dwayne Johnson in, I would absolutely have Smashing Machine in my top 5. I don't necessarily think that casting will align 5 for 5 with Best Picture, but I do think it'll align 4 for 4 with acting winners, and I will stand by that.
I think that will be a very interesting thing looking at this season because that is a very likely scenario, something that we've seen be backed up by the BAFTA Awards as well, where they tend to have multiple, if not all, of their acting winners represented in their casting nominees. The only other movie I really want to touch on here is one that we're getting more news about here recently that previously some people thought, and I think majority of people thought actually, was a 2026 movie that seems like it's eyeing a slot at the Venice Film Festival, being The Wizard of the Kremlin, where we talked about it before here on the channel. It is essentially what The Apprentice was for Donald Trump, the same thing for Vladimir Putin, and you could see the potential for casting that specific role, as well as taking these actors that you've seen before and giving them the biggest showcase in their career up to that date. So it's one I don't have getting the nomination right now because The Apprentice, at the end of the day, probably would have missed that nomination last year, but it did get that BAFTA mention, and I think it will keep this film, if it does release this year, and it is good, in the conversation.
Definitely. And you've been right about that one. I haven't been putting it in because I really thought that they were going to go for Cannes next year, but everything is pointing towards it's going to hit Venice. So you are definitely right about this one. It could be big. I still don't have a lot of faith in Olivier Assayas. You know, you don't watch Clouds of Sil Maria or Personal Shopper and think this guy's going to make an Oscar movie. But then again, you never know. I mean, he also made Irma Vep, both the movie and the TV series, which I heard great things about. So maybe it could happen. And especially with something with a subject matter like this, it's definitely more likely. I think Jude Law definitely in the running for an actor nomination.
So let's dive over into our screenplay categories. Up first is Best Original Screenplay, where I feel like for me personally, I haven't really had much movement from top to bottom without our pre-Cannes Eddington big long shot that did not pan out. So basically everything has just moved up a slot. Jay Kelly's here, Sinners is here, Is This Thing On, Marty Supreme, and now I've added Sentimental Value to my lineup, and it's gone all the way up to my number 1 spot.
I'm very happy to hear that. Sentimental Value, if nothing else, even if Sinners wins Best Picture, I need Sentimental Value winning screenplay over Sinners. I need it. I need it for my soul. I need it for my heart. I need it. It is such a good screenplay. And we've seen this category embrace Joachim Trier and Eskil Vogt before with The Worst Person in the World. They can absolutely be embraced again here. But I mean, you've been lower on Sinners everywhere. I'm a little surprised to see Sinners not in your number 2 slot and actually behind Jay Kelly there. That's pretty surprising to me.
Yeah, I mean, my big thing with Sinners is going to be is a hold-out method. I still have it getting these key nominations. It's still in my Best Picture lineup. I still have it getting 7 or 8 total nominations at the end of the day. I just think the performance that we've seen it do outside the U.S., as well as what eventually usually happens with a lot of these early contenders, is the steam dies off by the end of the year, and unless they are sweeping a specific category, they tend to kind of fall down the ranks, even in terms of the strength of their nomination placement at the end of the day. So it is my number 3, but it's pretty interchangeable with Jay Kelly as well. Jay Kelly is a film that we don't know much about besides the fact that it's Noah Baumbach, but we know that he is a branch favorite. I don't think either of those films, at least at this moment, are in danger of missing the nomination. It's more just like which one's 2, which one's 3, because Sentimental Value is number 1.
I love that we have the exact same 5. And the way that I see it right now is this lineup is Sentimental Value, Sinners, Jay Kelly, all sure things. Marty Supreme, we want to wait and see if it's actually a huge contender or not. Is This Thing On, I think, is interchangeable with Rental Family. It's one of the Searchlight movies, in my opinion. One of the Searchlight movies, and then it's everything else afterwards. I mean, we both have After the Hunt very close to our top 5. You're, as usual, more confident in A House of Dynamite than I am. But I see the angle for it. And we both have It Was Just an Accident on the outside, but not too far outside.
Mm-hmm.
This is the one category I will give it. Like it's possible here. I don't see it for director. I do see an angle for it in screenplay. But I'd love to hear more of your argument for A House of Dynamite because, again, week after week, we have to keep debating this one.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's going to basically stay until we have more news about it because this film seems like it will have a lot to say and doing it in a very dynamic and original fashion, the same way that all Catherine Bigelow movies do. And it's just the fact, will it be a real contender or is it fake? And that's why it's basically my first out in every category is because I want to put it in, but I don't have the confidence to put it over stuff that we know more about at this moment. So is it actually number 6? Maybe not, but it's my number 6 because it's the first thing I want to find a spot for. And I think going back to A Simple Accident real quick is I think that even if this film is not a Best Picture contender, and if it does catch on and this category fizzles out some contenders, it can kind of be like The Worst Person in the World this year where it brings itself into the screenplay category off the back of how much people love the movie in that specific demographic and crowds out there that love these international fairs. And as we've seen, the screenplay branches have been becoming more international, just like the director lineup as well. And I think we will get, I think a few years down the line, we will see both screenplay categories have international features that may not be Best Picture contenders, squeaking in for nominations here and there. And I guess just to sum up my thoughts on this original screenplay category at this moment is I agree. It's the top 3. Then you have a slot for whatever Searchlight's main contender is going to be. Is it going to be Rental Family or is this thing on? And then your 5th slot is kind of your wild card spot. It could be one of the A24 movies. It could be something more international. It could be something that we aren't really super high on at this moment, like After the Hunt, or something that is completely out of the blue that we're not expecting whatsoever. Because at least this year, I think original is very much top heavy, but then it kind of drops off. Where on the other hand, adapted, there's a lot of space for your top 5, but there's a lot more contenders the further you go down your list.
I think that's kind of both categories, though, in a way. Like, I'm not seeing a lot of depth in either one of these screenplay categories.
At least moving over to adapted screenplay for me, I mean, you see my top 5, and then I would say my number 6, my number 7, number 8, number 9, and then even going down to like 13, I can see an avenue for. Obviously, Wicked and Avatar depend on the strength of the movies as a whole, but because they are Best Picture contenders, they at least have to be in the conversation. They're going to probably hit at least one precursor, especially with all the WGA and eligibilities, but that for me is 13 movies compared to original screenplay from before, where I really only believe in 9, maybe 10 of those. So
I only believe in 8 of my original screenplay.
So
and for me, I think I go down to 9 for adapted screenplay. I don't believe in Deliver Me From Nowhere. Let me just be very clear about that. A Complete Unknown was a fucking anomaly. That never happens. Music biopics, even Bohemian Rhapsody didn't get in here. Actually, Bohemian Rhapsody only got 1 screenplay nomination the entire season from anybody, including critics. Anything. 1 screenplay nomination. Elvis didn't get a screenplay nomination. A Complete Unknown, I mean, for most of the year last year, even when both of us had A Complete Unknown in, you didn't even have it in your top 10 for screenplay because music biopics perform terribly in this category. And just because A Complete Unknown did it once doesn't mean that I'm going to put even the slightest bit of belief in Deliver Me From Nowhere. So for me, it's my top 9 in adapted screenplay that I think has a fighting.
I totally agree with you about the music biopics in the screenplay category. That's why Deliver Me From Nowhere is down at my number 13 slot. But we talked about a lot of these movies so far already in the screenplay category. Begonia, it's my Best Picture winner. Wake Up Dead Man, as I said before, I think these films will continue to be consistent in this category unless they drop off a cliff in terms of both public and critic reception-wise, which, at least at this moment, I don't have a reason to doubt that for this film. And then I think that's really where the question marks start coming from. One battle after another is with PTA. He has so much love from the Academy, but we're also not projecting high things for this movie. But I do think this is a category that will be safe at the end of the day. And Die My Love is another one where I feel like, as we've kind of gone back and forth all year long, if Jennifer Lawrence stays in the Best Actress conversation, especially in the upper echelon of the Best Actress conversation, I think that the screenplay could attach itself to get the nomination here. And the more reason why I had that one in is the movies on the outside looking in, I don't feel as strongly about this moment. Hamnet's my number 6. Wizard of Kremlin is getting stronger, but also I still feel like that's just an acting player. And then Hedda I'm losing faith in. So it's really Die My Love or No Other Choice for my final slot.
Die My Love is crazy in screenplay. Absolutely crazy. No, 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 no. I mean, first off, Jennifer Lawrence stays in the upper echelon of Best Actress. She's not in there. She's not in the upper echelon. She's at the bottom of the possible. I mean, like I still have her top 5. She's fighting for that final spot. She is fighting tooth and nail for it. Die My Love. Here's the thing with it. Very well directed movie. It is essentially 2 hours of Jennifer Lawrence screaming at a wall. That's what the film feels like in terms of writing. This is not a, even if it were to be in Best Picture, I could still see it miss screenplay. Could still see it miss screenplay. Now, I've been wrong about that in the past. I said that Zone of Interest would make picture, would not make screenplay. It got in screenplay. But with this, it's so. I know we differ on Die My Love just in general, but yeah, even if you're thinking that Jennifer Lawrence can catapult the film into other nominations, it's not screenplay.
And I guess the last thing before we wrap up this Best Adapted Screenplay category is let's talk about everyone's favorite contender of 2025, The Life of Chuck. So many people were so high on this in picture and supporting actor, especially in screenplay, even with the pushing of the film until this calendar year. The films came out. No one's talked about, no one saw it, and now it's looking like the film is going to go nomination-less, and I think it's one that I think will kind of be like Hitman this year. I think so many people are pointing to The Life of Chuck being a Sing Sing type contender where it will still hang on in some categories, but I think it's just going to be Hitman at the end of the day where it will pop up in screenplay where they can't nominate other things, but it's not going to show up consistently or really at all anywhere else.
It flopped so hard, and Neon is trying to position themselves as the prestige brand. They're trying to position themselves as we have all of the art house contenders. Life of Chuck goes anti that brand. Like if they're pushing It Was Just an Accident and Sentimental Value and No Other Choice and The Secret Agent, The Life of Chuck's not their brand, man. Like they thought they were going to make some money off of it being a Stephen King movie. That's it. That's it. That's the whole thing with Life of Chuck. They thought that they could maybe cash in on their horror crowd who didn't fucking show up to see the movie. So Life of Chuck, dead, 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 dead. Also got to mention The Smashing Machine. I see a lot of people putting it in original screenplay. It is adapted. It is based on an HBO documentary from 2002 titled The Smashing Machine. So it should be adapted. If it's not adapted,
then I will flip that over then because I had Smash Machine in original and Late Fame and adapted, which is based off of a short little play. So I will, potentially I'm not going to make the switch now, but I mean, Smash Machine is really building itself a potential package like I talked about before in the casting category. Maybe throw that into my screenplay and A24 is looking like they could have actor, screenplay, makeup, adapted. It sounds so similar to what The Whale would have been. And now your question would be, would The Whale make Best Picture in a different year? That's a question for all of you out there.
that is it, because this does feel like The Whale 2.0 to me, but hopefully a little bit better than The Whale.
I would hope so.
I really hope so. But yeah, I also have No Other Choice here. This is going to be the last thing I mention. No Other Choice. We've seen that they do go for these international films in the screenplay categories. Last year, again, I'm Still Here Missing was a total anomaly, and that's purely because I firmly believe the acting branch pushed that movie in entirely on the back of Fernando Torres. I feel like had the LA fires not happened, I'm Still Here would not have been in Best Picture. It would have just had actress and international feature. And so I feel like if I'm Still Here's buzz had started a few weeks earlier, then it could have gotten that screenplay nomination. And in fact, I think it would have gotten that screenplay nomination. I mean, if they nominated The Zone of Interest in adapted screenplay, anything, anything that's international that's in Best Picture is going to get nominated. So if I have no other choice in Best Picture, which I do, I have it in Best Director, I need it in Best Adapted Screenplay.
And I agree with everything that you're saying about no other choice, besides the fact that I don't believe Neon will give it the runway that it has. But everything that you're saying about when it gets that runway, and it will happen, I'm totally there with you, with director, with screenplay, with international feature. I just think there's so many roadblocks in this film's way that if it does go to Venice and it does get the rapturous applause that we are all hoping that it gets, then I will be right on there on board with you.
Yeah. I think regardless, Neon has the muscle to push 2, maybe even 3, but they're not going to get 3 in. They have the muscle to do it. The question is, do they have the competence to? And we're going to see. This is the test year for that.
I think it will be the test year, because I think one thing that we have seen Neon do, and I think it's the smart thing for their brand, is they focus everything behind one, and they usually get that film to do better than what you were expecting. Even though Anora was the Best Picture winner last year, if they were splitting their time between Anora and Sea of the Sacred Fig, Anora probably doesn't win 5 Oscars on the day of. It probably just wins the ones it needs to get Best Picture, because all that campaign was behind one. Anora was able to soar, and you can use that with other contenders in the years past. And it's something I feel like A24 runs into a lot, where they have such a strong film, because they're spreading themselves too thin. That film usually ends up missing things, like Sing Sing did last year. And The Brutalist as well, while it still got its nominations, it could have picked up some additional wins at the end of the day. And I think that will be the true test with Neon this year, is they have sentimental value. Are they going to try to get that one film to overperform and maybe even win additional awards and nominations? Or are they going to try to spread it out to 2, maybe even 3 films, with how crazy they've been going with buying? Because A24, we've seen this year, they have so many movies coming out that keep not being huge profits because they make them for so cheap. They're able to like kind of squeak by, but they're not turning $20-30 million of profit off of a single film. Neon, you just had Chuck come out that lost you money. What's going to happen with these films now coming forward?
Yeah, the thing to keep in mind with Neon as well is they've had a huge shift in leadership. And so their strategy this year of buy at Cannes and seemingly at Venice is the new leadership. So we're going to have to see how that changes things, but this is not the same Neon that won Best Picture last year. This is a different beast altogether. So we're going to see, are they going to coast off of that? Are they going to build on that, or are they going to flop?
With that being said, we have now gone over all of the main categories at the Academy Awards, but in the coming weeks, we are going to be bringing you international, documentary, and animated feature predictions before we dive into our next cycle of Best Picture before the fall film festivals kick off. So if that interests you, and if you made this far inside the video, consider dropping a like. It helps our channel grow, and subscribe so you can stay up to date with all of that good stuff.
As always, thank you so much for watching. My name's Matt.
My name's Dyl, and this has been Fantasy Filmball.